tensions between the U.S. and China have ticked up a notch in recent months. The U.S. has launched several trade probes against China's imports in the last 2 months, including investigations into food additives and electrical steel. China has also targeted certain U.S. exports with higher duties. In August, the World Trade Organization found that China's tariffs on U.S. chicken exports were unjustified. And my colleague Mike Walters spoke with a former U.S. government official about what China's financial reforms mean for American businesses. Ira Kasoff served for several years as one of the Commerce Department's experts on Asian affairs. He's currently a senior counsel for ACPO Worldwide.
Well, I think there were a few specifics for U.S. businesses that will be important. There was some talk about what's referred to as national treatment, in other words, providing equal treatment to foreign investors as to domestic investors. There was also talk about regulating foreign investment in the future by a so-called negative list. What a negative list means is that if a project or a sector is not specifically listed as being out of bounds, then investors can invest in that sector, and that's different from the way it's been regulated in the past. So those are some specific things that are important. And more broadly, if in fact the Chinese government is successful in focusing more on domestic demand and stimulating consumption, that will be definitely to the benefit of U.S. companies as well. So I think it could be quite significant.
One of the things that we've seen in China is just this enormous growth, and a lot of people have talked about how it just can't be sustained. Will this ignite a new round of growth, or is that too optimistic?
I don't know if it's too optimistic, but it's really too early to say. I don't think we're going to see a new round of growth coming out of this immediately, but I do think that they are laying the groundwork here first for a new level of development by putting more focus on the market, by increasing opportunity for private companies, by focusing, as I say, on domestic demand and service industries, moving away from the traditional reliance on government investment and exports. I think all of those things are critical, really, to allow China to move to the next level of development. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but I am optimistic about the future.
When folks here in the West look at this blueprint, where do they see opportunities?
You know, I had a feeling you'd ask me that question, so I actually jotted down some of the sectors that have been mentioned as being more open for foreign investment. So areas like finance, education, healthcare, construction, accounting and auditing, telecommunications, and manufacturing. Those have all been mentioned specifically as areas that will be more open for foreign investment, and those are all important sectors.
A lot of people looking at SOE. Do you think the reforms go far enough there?
That's a complicated question. I mean, they have done some things on SOEs. They will require them to pay more dividends to the state in the future. They will open up some sectors to private companies that have been really dominated by state-owned enterprises in the past. Will that go far enough? It's hard to say. I mean, I think they still reaffirm the dominance of the state-owned enterprises in the economy. So we'll have to see. I think reform of SOEs is a long-term process.
And not easy.
And not easy, that's right.
Let me ask you about the TPP. China's expressed an interest in that of late. Does that surprise you?
I wouldn't say it surprises me, but I think it's very encouraging. It was interesting, actually. The U.S. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew was in Beijing a few days ago, met with President Xi and other Chinese leaders, and that meeting followed Secretary Liu's visit to 4 Asian countries that are involved in the TPP negotiations. So I think we can be quite certain that the subject of the TPP came up in his meetings in Beijing. The U.S. is hoping to wrap up the TPP negotiations this year, which may be a bit too optimistic, but they're in the final stages. So China's not going to be able to enter right now during these final stages of negotiations. But the fact that they're expressing interest really for the first time in joining the TPP, I think is very encouraging. I would say the U.S. government will welcome that. I certainly would if I were still in the U.S. government.
And that was Ira Kasoff, Senior Counselor for ACPO Worldwide, a global business strategy firm.